What's what, Uncle Sonny?
What's what? My brother Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Can't
Good.
complain. The guys who did the work, the guys who killed Johnny,
We're actually friends of his.
we grew up with him.
Yeah.
And he always told me they were jealous of him because he became made and they didn't.
Yeah, but he earned that spot.
Right. These guys are sitting now doing life. Where'd it get you? Friends killing friends, betraying friends.
Made guys turning on made guys.
For a life full of treachery. That's what I mean. They want to talk about loyalty. You betrayed your friends. Yeah. They're all your friends till they tell you to kill one of them.
Right. Kill that guy.
You're
The
sitting
guy you know
today,
your whole
you're sitting
life.
today at a table.
Yeah.
You're all friends. Tomorrow, they're telling one guy to kill the other guy.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened to the?
Yeah.
That's not betrayal.
Everything's thrown out the window at that point.
Yeah.
That's total betrayal.
Right.
And it's by choice.
So when Johnny gets killed, it hits the newspaper. You know, it's all over the papers, and until today they do stories about this. And guys don't have all the details. They don't have all the inside stuff.
You can tell when you read certain things.
Yeah. And there's stuff I'll think about. Like, let's say we leave this table.
Yeah.
I'll go home. I'll think about what we talked about and stuff. And I'll go, oh, well, I should have added this. I should have said this. I should have said that. Because now you start rehashing. You start thinking.
Right. Well, as you say, you knock the rust off and things start flowing at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll definitely go over it. And then later on, as the podcast goes on and we get people who want to hone in, because what I'm realizing is people, they'll help you with questions they have. And now you'll start thinking of different angles and go, oh, yeah, I thought about this. I thought about, that's where the details come in and all that stuff. And it just the story gets more.
It continues. I mean, stuff like this, you're not going to get it all out in one session of doing something like this, no matter what. There's going to be more to this story. Oh, during this time, this happened. And then it strikes up more memory as you talk about it.
You see, the stories I like to talk about are the stories that I was intimately involved with.
Right.
So I could give.
Things you know firsthand is what you're talking about.
And the people that I know firsthand. Like Johnny Petrocelli, we were super close for months and months, right up until he got killed. There he is. He didn't look like that on the street. That's a younger picture of him.
That's super young, yeah.
It's kind of hard to find photos of him, actually. There's not a lot of photos I can find of him.
No.
Probably not.
There's Rafi Como.
Not many photos of him either.
Rafi.
I found 2.
I tell you what, Rafi, he's just how can I say this?
Hey, I tell you what.
He made the best I tell you what, there's no denying that. My man always told me, flour and water makes dough.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
And he made a good pie. I mean, whatever his legacy, he wants his legacy to be. He took pride in his food. He took pride in the pizza. He was always...
He left a legacy behind, man. What, Rays?
And that was the first Rays in New York, was it not?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think he's involved with it anymore. I think he sold the building. He sold the whole thing.
Well, I think the family sold the building after he passed.
His niece,
Johnnie
Brody's wife, that junkie I talk about. His
wife, was it? Or his...
Rafi had no kids. He had no kids. He had his nephew, was like his son.
So, yeah, had to be.
His sister, who he was super close with. That's one thing about Rafi. Rafi took care of his family. But he didn't have a family. He had a girl. He had a girlfriend for years. He was never married. He had no kids. So I would guess, I'm just guessing, his nephew wound up with a lot. And his sister's daughter, which is Johnny Brody's wife, she probably wound up with the control of whatever's left, Yeah, if it wasn't for Charlie Brody, when he was younger, a lot of the buildings on Mulberry Street, Mott Street, Little Italy, you could have bought them like back in the day. I mean, back in the day was a lot of money, but if you would have bought those, the buildings were going for like, I heard, from like 80 grand to like 300,000. Okay. Those buildings that you could have bought for 80 to 300,000 today are 15, 20, 30 million.
It sold, of what I read, I believe it was 2011, sold for 5.9. That building.
Today it's got to be 15 million.
Yeah, it's triple that.
Yeah.
everybody remembers these people, you know, as being the organized crime guys. This guy started this pizza war. This was a pizza war in New York City.
It was.
Like, this was not a joke. This was, you know, this Ray's famous Ray's, the this, the that, the other.
Yeah.
There was a pizza war between these places.
You know, if Rafi was smart though, he would have took all that junk money that we made and he would have opened up more locations.
100.
Yeah, he didn't know. I don't think they realized that was even possible.
He just stood with his one store.
Yep. He tried
On
a
Prince
second
Street.
location and then sold it right away. He didn't keep it long. At least I read that.
He was supposed to expand.
Yep.
Get 100 of them open.
Yep.
Dominate the
Pizza.
whole New York pizza
Yeah.
industry.
He was going to dominate it.
And today he'd be sitting on the legacy where they got like a Sabaros
all
or
over
like
the world.
all over
Yep.
the place.
Yeah, it would have been like a Subway
Well,
almost.
and you know what? We would have had better pizza here. I'm
Well,
just
now
saying.
you got, I don't know what nationality, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
Anybody can
matter.
make a pizza today. But now you got some, whoever, under the name Ray's. I know the Ray's that I go to on the east side.
Yeah.
Because they got one on the east side too, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I know that guy's not Italian. I
No.
think he's
Albania.
Albanian. That's right.
Same thing with
Nice
the
guy.
Pizza.
He
Oh, they're
makes,
great guys.
makes a great pie.
They make a pie just like we do.
Albanians and
do.
Italians are very similar.
Absolutely.
They're right.
Yeah.
They're very close.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. When I walk in there, that Ray's on the east side.
Yeah.
Phenomenal pizza.
Used to be owned by the same guy.
I go down to the one on 35th Avenue in Union Hills, and it's a family from Brooklyn who started that one.
I can't think of the young man's name, but I met him a couple times because my brother-in-law was affiliated with them for a minute.
So it's almost surreal when I go in there and I order a pizza and I order a big Sicilian pie and I have squares.
Yeah.
Well, I'll order 2 squares and a soda because that's what I used to get at Rafi's. I look back and I go, man,
Wow.
like if he would have did this, if he would have did that, you know, if he would have expanded and franchised, that Ray's that we're walking into now would have been paying royalty fees
That's
right now.
right.
Yeah.
To the family.
For real.
To the family.
Yeah.
Just
to
for the name.
corporation. He would have had to
Corporation
open,
or-
yeah.
It would have took a life of its own.
Yeah, he was approached allegedly. You know, some of the things I read about the Ray's Pizza family. That he was approached several times of people trying to convince him that to expand and do more locations. That they wanted him to kind of franchise. I guess before franchises were becoming popular.
Well, and wasn't it Lombardi's that bucked that system too, and Grimaldi's did it? Now look at
Grimaldi's came out of Patsy's up in Harlem. That's where that beef started. And then what happened was the family got into beef, and then they opened up Grimaldi's in
Brooklyn, under the Brooklyn Bridge, wasn't it?
Brooklyn Heights.
Brooklyn Heights. It was near the Brooklyn Bridge.
I used to
remember
box. I used to box up in that gym, Gleason's.
that. Yep. Gleason's
new
was there, you're
Gleason's,
right?
the-
Yep.
They opened up a new Gleason's gym. Well, back then it was new. Up in downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights.
Yeah.
So I remember the first Grimaldi's when it opened. Back
I do
in
too.
So did they have a coal oven when they
Yes.
opened the
Back
first
in
one as well?
1990, 91.
It was a very old-fashioned way of cooking pizza. There was several of them that did the coal-fired oven. Yeah, it was a Brooklyn thing, I thought. But
Lombardi's
I'm being-
was in my neighborhood.
yeah,
Lombardi's is on Spring and Mott.
I've never been to Lombardi's. Every time I go to New York, I've never been there. I always go. I should probably go sometime, but I've never been.
Here's the biggest thing with those ovens. The biggest thing with those ovens is that it's seasoned.
Mm.
So you heard of a pan being seasoned.
Yeah.
just like a black frying pan.
So if I got an oven that's been seasoning for over 100 years
yeah, these things are
okay,
100
versus a
years
brand new
old. Yeah.
oven, that's where it comes in.
That smoky flavor and all hits the pizza because of the coal. There's a lot of factors go into that.
Well, it's the nostalgia, it's the storyline,
Oh, yeah.
it's the whole thing. But
Yeah.
if Rafi would have,
Imagine.
skipped the track,
skip the track,
skip the ball game, skip the football sheets.
skip the
Like I said,
babanya. Who knows?
The cockroach races. No, he could have stood in the Babanya business, no problem. But things, if he would have skipped all that stuff and if he would have focused on just being the pizza king, winging
I was going to
the
say, he
pizza
doesn't
war,
look like a pizza king.
He
when
would've
you
been-
look at him, you're like,
he would have been a multi-gazillionaire.
Oh God, yeah.
truth.
He would have
Yeah.
been the pizza king of all times.
I tell you what,
Still is in a lot of ways.
my old friend is,
Mm-hmm.
he was a hoodlum. He was a hoodlum at heart. He couldn't help himself.
Wow.
He couldn't help himself. He was a gangster. I don't know what kind of, he'd get you killed though.
He was that politician you called him several times.
Well, here's why. See, Johnny Petrocelli.
Yeah.
Johnny Petrocelli was capable. He killed a couple people before. He did time before.
Right. Yeah.
Rafe never killed anybody. And if I guarantee you, if Vic would have told Rafe, all right, he told you that, go kill him.
Go take care of it. Yeah.
Petrocelli never would have got killed.
Yeah.
Rafe wouldn't have did it.
If Rafe was in charge of that, you mean?
And Vic knows Rafe wouldn't have did it.
Yeah.
Rafe's not a guy they call to do work.
Yeah.
You're not calling Rafe. You're not calling Rafe at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, we got to go whack this guy out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not. No, he's the
guy you call. Yeah, that's not him.
We talk about the law firm, the rainmaker, the worker bee, and the guy who goes to court. He's the guy who goes to court.
Yep. He's not
Rafe
the worker
dress
bee.
up. Nah, Rafe.
He has a part in all of this, and that's his
He'll punch in the face. He'll fight. He'll fight. He'll punch in the face. He'll do his time. He'll keep his mouth shut. You know, I don't know what more you want out of a guy.
No, if he's getting the job done that they know he can do, you got the guy that you know. We used to say that in the business. You got to get the right people in the right seat on the bus, right or wrong. And everybody has a purpose.
I cried like a baby when they killed Johnny Petrocelli. I really cried.
That affected you bad.
I really don't cry.
Yeah.
But man, it really got me.
Hmm.
You know?
Why would that affect you more than most others? I know because you felt for the guy, but there's something more to that then.
Because the guy was so what do you want to say? He was
his heart in the right place? What put you on to that?
Yeah, he was so Petrocelli was hard on his sleeve.
Okay.
He was so generous to me. Loved my uncle.
How did he get to know your uncle? Do you know? Did they grow up together or?
No, they didn't grow up together. I mean, they met somewhere.
Huh. Interesting.
They actually met through his cousin, Tommy Panini.
Huh.
But Johnny was good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't want to sound cold, but I didn't cry when I heard Rafe passed away.
Different emotions stir up when people pass.
I mean, because my friend Johnny got killed. Wasn't supposed to get killed. Got killed like a dog.
Yeah, and the way they did it and how they did it, all of that adds up.
The guy went and did work, did all his time for the family.
Didn't squeal, didn't say nothing, didn't say a word.
Come home, help somebody. All right, Gus is a jerk off for killing an agent. Okay, we all know that. We know that.
That goes without saying. Yeah.
That's if you tell me like Rafe, all right, may he rest in peace and everything. I know I'm going to get criticism. Well, you told on him. Yeah, I told on him because I had to because they had us on tape. Okay.
Yeah.
But
There's
you know what?
Circumstances behind everything here.
I was very reluctant. And I think that's the reason why he only got 4 years. He was supposed to get 20 years. He got 4. When he fixed his diabetes, because when you go inside, you know, you're going to exercise more. You're going to do.
You got to take care of yourself.
Stop all this the shit. Johnny didn't get that chance.
No.
Yeah, he went, and he got himself from helping people. Think about it. What did he do wrong?
He didn't do anything wrong in a lot of people's eyes.
In
his eyes, he wasn't
talk.
doing anything wrong.
I mean, in the world of the mafia, I mean,
what did he do wrong? Let's go back to the rules.
Yeah, go back to the rules again.
Show me the rule in what book. Show me the rule in what book that he should have got killed. The only thing they could have said was, okay, he defied a direct order.
Correct. That's what they're going to say. But he also didn't want to kill a friend.
That's how they twist it.
He didn't want to kill his friend. That's what it came down to. So, like, you know, what if they gave him orders and said, hey.
I think if there was a different boss in place, not as hardcore as Vic and Gas, Johnny they wouldn't have killed him.
They would have given him a pass, you think?
Yeah, because they would have said, okay, you don't have the kid no more. He went back to the Bananas. Let them do it.
Right.
That's what I would have done.
Then it would have been on the Bananas to take care of it.
Yeah, would have been on the bananas.
Yeah,
Let them
would've been
handle
on
it
the
now.
bananas, and then Petrocelli's basically off the hook.
Knowing Johnny, because Johnny was a tough guy. He had a lot of resentment towards Vic from killing those two guys on the boat. The father and son, which he never agreed with. Okay? There was a lot of resentment through the years.
And for many years, he didn't agree with that decision.
Johnny
And that
goes
stayed
away.
with him. Yeah.
Who knows what was going on between Vic and his wife? Why? You got gunpowder still on your hands.
Sounds suspect that you showed up at
You're
the
sitting
house.
at the guy's house answering the phone. Matter of fact, I think about it. He answered the phone.
That's crazy.
Now that we're talking about
When
it,
the
it wasn't
son
the mother.
called, he answered the phone.
He answered the phone.
And the kid didn't think
He
nothing
says,
of
my
it.
mother there. Mother gets on the phone. He's there. He hangs up. And here's how this kid's not even thinking. He goes, oh,
He's there visiting my mom.
Vic's, like he was all excited that Vic's by the house. My face just dropped, and I was just like,
whoa.
It gave me a different light of Vic.
Yeah, I would think so.
Ugh. I think if there was a different boss in place, somebody would have said they would call him in and says, hey, what's going on with this kid? Do you still got him? I don't have him anymore. He left. Where'd he go? I don't know. I think he called whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Let's get him off your plate and get him out of there.
He's off our back. We go back and we tell everybody we don't have him anymore. The kid showed up dead after he made that phone call and he went back to the bananas. I think he showed up dead like 2 or 3 days later.
Yeah, I'm sure it
They
was.
got him in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They set him up.
Yeah.
Set him up like that.
Yeah, they set him up.
I think what happened was, knowing Johnny, the resentment he had towards Vic, he probably had some words with him.
Yeah, that's possible. That makes sense.
And pretty much told
Vic, nah.
I'm not doing it.
He defied an order, is what he's doing.
Vic gets insulted right away. More so because he knows Johnny. He says, all right, well, F you back now. Shoot yourself.
Wow.
And now what they do is they go tell John, now here we talk about loyalty, right? They go and grab 2 guys who grew up with Johnny Petrocelli, promise them to get made if they do the work.
Yep.
They go and kill their best friend. They get caught. They get life. Now they're sitting there, right? The kid, Johnny Petrocelli's son, he now wants to emulate the father. So he goes out. He goes on a rampage, this kid. I heard, with a gang, they the Tanglewood boys. I'll get into that later.
Boys, yeah.
I'll get into that another time. He goes and gets a life bid. Now look how this all plays out. Johnny Petrocelli, all the time in jail, goes, does his time, comes home, gets killed. The son goes out, gets life.
Full circle.
His 2 best friends, they go kill John, they get life. Everybody's sitting there.
What does loyalty get for this
Gus
whole
gets
thing?
killed.
You want to talk about loyalty, right?
Gus gets killed, right?
Yeah.
But if you cooperate with the government, you're worse than all of them. You're the baddest.
You're the bad man. You're the bad guy.
Oh.
You're the bad guy.
Oh, my
Well,
God. Oh, my God.
It's interesting that we
You
sit here and have
cooperated?
this conversation,
Oh,
man.
my
That's
God.
crazy. What a piece of you are.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it was a cooperation after somebody betrayed you in the first place. So
Yeah, so now,
you're allowed to betray me. How do you look at that?
See what you just said? Now, these are the type of individuals, right? Well, now there's more people involved. We'll get into as to the reasons why I cooperated, right? Now you're saying to yourself, okay, you're sitting in jail. Do you trust these people?
You lived life with them. How are you going to trust them? Because you know the ins and outs of how they're thinking and what they're saying and what they probably are going to say about you.
Johnny, he's doing time for them. And you there's no trust here. And
No,
you're
I
still
wasn't doing time. I wasn't doing time
for
yet
them.
for them.
No.
Not for them yet.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I was doing all my own stuff.
Okay.
All the stuff I got arrested for was my own beef. Not yet.
Not yet.
The mob stuff didn't hit
The family
yet.
stuff come in yet. Yeah, that's right.
That's why I never asked for nothing. I never wanted nothing. I was taking care of my own business.
Well,
you went and poked the bear.
You know what happens when you poke the bear, baby.
But that's a whole nother 5 hours of talk. I'm not trying to convince you either way, But the way I look at it, like I'll say this, I'll say it again. That's a prime example of how a mob rat is the worst rat.
The internal guy.
Hmm.
The guy that turns on his friends, basically.
He who pisses in the boss's ear is the boss.
Interesting.
Nice.
If Rafi never goes back and tells Vic that John has Gus Faraci,
He's alive.
No one's the wiser.
he's alive.
Yeah, he don't get killed by his best friends.
What was Rafi's incentive to go back to Vic and tell him that?
Well, you said it best, I think.
Score points.
Points.
Yeah.
Wants to be,
It's-
you know,
Elevate.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, wants to be,
Get a promotion.
look what I did, Vic.
Yeah.
You know,
Look what I did for you.
yeah, I'm your rat. You know,
I'm your
that makes
guy.
it okay.
How does that make it okay? Reality wise.
When ratting, okay, cooperation is on different levels. You got dry snitches where they're ratting, but they're dry. You know what a dry snitch is?
No, explain.
They're not actually pointing at somebody, but they're giving information without pointing at somebody.
So they're
dry
insinuating
snitching.
this is about to take place, or this is going to
Yeah,
take
there's
place
somebody
today.
around who's doing this. There's
Yeah. Okay.
They're blatantly making a statement.
Pointing them in a direction.
Oh, this is going on. I don't know where it's coming from, but this is going on, blah, 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 and everything else. So, like, what do you know, they're not pinpointing on someone, but they're alerting whoever that there is something going on, you should look into it. That's a dry snitch. You know, you got people that talk about things they're not supposed to talk about. They're not, let's say, here's an example. You got people that are on YouTube. They'll talk about a story, okay? Although they're not testifying, although they're not getting the guy arrested, they're still talking about the story, what that person did. That's dry snitching. Then you get the person who actually points somebody out. You know, he did it.
He IDs the guy. Yeah.
Then you get the mob rat. The guy who goes over to the boss or somebody in power that knows.
Yo, I want to tell you something. Frankie over here did this, and so did that, and
Then you got the undercover. You got the confidential. You got the CI.
Yep.
You got the jailhouse rats. How many times jails I've been in where guys are not getting bothered by the staff or they're getting preferential treatment? Why? Because they're giving information. SIS, they got all their informants in there.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
You know, makes the guy's time go by easier. The guy gets a better job. He doesn't get his balls busted. They don't shake down his cell.
Yeah,
He
they're not
never
throwing
goes
him
to
in
the
the hole. Yeah, they're not doing
He
any of
gets
that.
all
nonsense.
these little perks that they give you in there. Maybe he gets an extra phone call. Doesn't get harassed
Because he gets
okay?
information to.
because he and it's credible information.
so do you know that? Do people know that when that's a situation when you're inside or no?
Let me tell you something. When something happens inside, right? They know. You know why? Because
it's-
everybody's running to the counselor's office or the case manager's office or somebody, right? And they're saying, hey, Frank's the one who did it. Frank did it. Frank did it, right? And what happens is they'll get all different pieces of information. So they got to figure out who's telling them the truth too.
Yeah.
Because there might be a motive why one guy's telling them Sonny did it. Maybe they don't like Sonny.
Right.
Yeah. I want extra dessert. You know, it's like,
Or they say, well, you know what? We want to screw over Giantonio because we don't like blah, blah, blah. Or people say, no, I'm going to be truthful and I'm going to give, you know, I'm a credible, whatever. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the staff will get all the information and then they'll start investigating. And then what they do is they go after all the people that were mentioned. And then when they grab all the people that were mentioned, they start talking. And at the end of the day, they find out everything.
Yep.
Nothing goes uncovered.
It kind of makes sense if you look at the environment. I mean, it's not a big community. It's not, it's pretty much a small community. You can get down to the nitty gritty pretty quick if something goes down.
Why do you think when an incident happens, they shut the jail down? They call you in one by one. SIS. They'll call each guy out into the office.
one at a time.
One at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Compare you against him, his story, your story.
They collect all this information. Now they investigate and they go, okay. Now they lock up all the suspects. Now they get the suspects. Now they start interviewing them. And then before you know it,
Process of elimination.
it comes out.
Process of elimination. You get, sooner or later, you're going to get right down to the truth.
Don't forget now, you got a big thing now. You got cameras.
Yeah, that's right.
Got
Everything's
cameras
on
everywhere.
video.
The only place they can't keep a camera is the bathroom or the shower. They got cameras. They got,
So they can go to the film and look at everything.
you know, and the loudest one in the room is the biggest snitch. The one who's always like, I'm a tough guy, I'm this, I'm that, blah, 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 and everything else. He's the one telling. He's the one
Guy in
telling.
the room's the squealer.
You know, you got guys in there too. They're tough with their hands.
Yeah, I would
They're
imagine.
tough and everything else. And they'll tell you right to your face. I'm telling. What are you gonna do about it?
Yep.
Guy's 6'6", 300 pounds.
What are you gonna do?
He doesn't give a
Me, I'm going to
F
run
about nothing.
as far as I can.
And he goes, I'm telling, what are you going to do about it? When they use the word cooperation, they use the word rat, whatever it is, right? It is so many different levels of cooperation, so many different levels of, you know, here's an example. You got a lot of mob guys right now, right? They took pleas.
Yeah.
They took a guilty plea. And they allocuted. You know what allocuted is, right?
Tell us.
Okay, so when you plead guilty, you're pleading guilty to something. And when you plead guilty to something, it's called an allocution. And what they do is the allocution is the language they use in the plea agreement. So let's say you're charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud. You go in, you plead guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, right? But now there's a synopsis of language of how you committed that wire fraud.
Okay.
Now, if you don't allocute to anybody, meaning that you didn't tell on anybody, you just say, I, Sonny Facenda, took these steps to commit wire fraud on this date, this time, blah, 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 and everything else, right? And you're done.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the government says, okay, Sonny, you're going to plead guilty, but you have to plead guilty to this language. In that language, you point to people. Now, you didn't testify against them. You didn't cooperate. But you told the federal judge in the court who else was
These
involved.
people have something involved in this. That's what you're admitting to, right?
Okay, here's an example. Let's say you're a made member of the Bonanno family. You're not supposed to admit to that. You're not supposed to admit you're a made guy. You're not supposed to admit that there is a mafia that even exists. If you do admit to it, does that make you a rat?
It's a great question. Technically, in whose eyes? My eyes or theirs?
Well, this is all, listen, the word rat and all this stuff we talk about, it's a subculture term. So we're going with the subculture. We're going with the mafia.
And I'm
You're
a rat.
part of the mafia.
And
you're
I'm
not
a
supposed to
family
admit-
made guy, and I'm
Big
going
guy,
to
you're not supposed to admit to anyone.
allocute these people.
Let's start with the first allocution.
Okay.
Let's say they want you to sign a plea agreement admitting that there is a Bonanno family. The Bonanno family does exist.
Which I'm not supposed to do.
Not supposed to do. And that you're a made man in that organization, what you're not supposed to do.
Right.
Now, you signed
And that this organization even exists. I'm not supposed to do that either.
No. Now, if you did it, what does that make you?
Technically?
Yeah.
A rat.
Oh, there you go.
If I do that, I'm going against everything I was supposed to uphold by.
Let me take it a step further.
Go ahead.
What if the allocution says, Sonny, you have to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud? In the language, it states, we're going to ask you these questions. Is there a Bonanno, are you part of the Bonanno crime family? You say yes.
Yes.
Are you a made man in that organization? You say
The answer, yes.
yes. Did you conspire with others to commit this crime?
Yes.
Did you conspire with Michael and Frank to commit this crime?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you didn't testify.
Nope.
Right? You did not agree to cooperate with the government. You didn't get on the stand. Nothing, right? But now, I could use your plea. The government could use your plea and bring it to, if Michael has a trial or if I have a trial, they could use your allocutions.
And
Now, Michael goes like this.
want,
Michael says, well, there is no Bonanno crime family. That's his defense.
No.
Oh, no?
Well, Frank said there was.
Oh, no? There's no, oh,
Really?
okay. Well, you know what, Your Honor, we have here a made guy, Sonny Facenda, already admitted, right? But now Sonny's not taking the stand because that's not part of his plea agreement.
Right.
Because Sonny didn't go to the cooperation of getting a 5K1 letter.
So he doesn't have to take the stand, but yet they could use what he said against everybody else.
Anybody that was in there.
Because
Right. And let me ask you this. They can use that at any time that they want to, or they're using it to build a case, or when are they going to use this? So I've already said, yeah, it exists. Now they're trying to catch you into something, and they go, well, we have the proof. Sonny said so.
I don't know as to when, how many times they could use it, but
yeah, I'm wondering how long that they can use it.
But at the end of the day, that's what's called in the subculture term a bad plea. He took a bad plea.
Took a bad plea. I've heard that terminology
He allocuted.
before. I think everyone has. Yeah.
The best analogy I could use is for the masses.
Mm-hmm.
You know The Sopranos, right?
Yep.
Remember when what was the character's name? Johnny Sack.
Johnny Sack.
Sack, yeah.
Took a plea for 15 years, but he allocated. You seen that?
Mm-hmm.
That's towards the end.
Why they were so upset? They looked at him as a rat. Why he took the 15 years? Because he wouldn't have got the 15 if he had not allocated.
He would have got what, life? Probably in that
Well, here's
situation.
depends. They come to, let's go back to the three of us have a case.
Yeah.
God forbid. And you're the one facing life.
Mm-hmm.
We're all facing life, right?
Okay.
But they come to, they go, Sonny, we'll give you a plea for 15. And the lawyer says, you have to allocate. If you don't take it, you're going to get life. So in the movie, the way The Sopranos depicts it, the best way I could describe it, which is not all accurate either, but it was damn near close.
Yeah, I'm
right?
sure it is.
You take the 15 years, but it's a bad plea. Now, you didn't sit on the stand against us.
Right.
You didn't point the finger at us. You didn't testify, but it's just as good.
It's the same thing at that point, right?
You took a bad plea.
Same result.
Now you do your time.
Yeah.
15 years.
Right.
You're thinking, well, I did my time. This guy's a stand-up guy. No. That's what I mean.
Same thing.
You know how many guys are walking the yard, or how many guys came home that took a bad plea?
Really?
A lot.
Hmm.
More than
we'll have to get into some of that at some point.
More
too.
than the so-called rats that you call.
Yeah. That we know
like
about.
Me,
yeah.
Like me and others that, all this rat, this, that, almost all this other stuff. Well, you know what? How about the guys that allocated? How about the guys that are CIs on the street? How about the guys that are the mob rats that'll get you killed? How about the guys that are the jailhouse rats?
I got to say, those guys are worse than the guy who said, I'm coming in because you put a hit on my father. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, honestly, like you want to talk truth. You want to cut through all this BS and get to the truth.
They'll never, let me tell you something. They will never, here's what guys will do, all right? I know what I would do. If I was on the street and I heard about me, I would never admit to you in person that, because nobody could condone what I did.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, nobody likes a rat.
Okay. Right?
Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll never publicly condone what I did because they can't.
Inside, they know I would have done the same thing.
I guarantee you, I lay everything I got behind a closed door when they're thinking whatever, because they weren't in that situation. That if it was them, what would they do? What would you do?
Great question.
When I asked Vlad,
Yep.
Vlad TV, when I was interviewing.
Yeah. He said he'd do the same exact thing.
I'd have done the same thing.
Intelligent guy. He didn't answer me the first time.
No. He avoided the question.
No, he did at the end.
He avoided me.
No, he asked him a couple times.
He avoided the question in the beginning of the interview. But at the end of the day, look at him. 6 million followers, around 15 years, very successful, very intelligent. He didn't have to put himself out there.
He didn't have to say a thing. He could have just avoided that forever.
He could have just been neutral or just say nothing. But you know what? The guy was genuine. He was honest. And he said, you know what?
The question. He didn't have to answer your question.
I would have did the same thing, and I respect your decision. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can see in the street how this all plays out. Let's say we're me guys, right? You have to knock me. You have to talk about me. You have to call me names. You have to put me down because you got to show you're against that.
Yeah.
Right?
Loyalty.
You don't believe in what you did. You got to show that.
Now, if you're asked, the same question that I asked Vlad, what would you do? Right? For the guy who says, don't ask me that, what is he really saying?
He agrees with you.
What if the guy says, I don't know what I would have did?
Well, I'm going to sit
What's
by.
he saying?
Well, you take out my family, annihilate my pets, do whatever else because I took a blood oath to somebody who's going to stab me in the back.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay. Think about if I asked everybody that question, let's say what I asked Vlad, what would you do? Okay. I'm not talking about the trolls that, keyboard warrior doesn't want to show their face, doesn't want to come forward, doesn't want to do that. Forget that, Like Vlad said, everybody's a super gangster on the internet. But when it comes to real life, when it comes to real life situation, I faced life multiple times. I was supposed to be dead multiple times. I've been in real life situations, so I could speak from where I come from. But let's just say this. Let's say you're on the street right now, you're a made guy, you're active or whatever, right? And somebody asked you the same question I asked Vlad. Now, he's only going to come up with a few answers. Either he's going to say, let's play this out. Either he's going to say, don't ask me that. What is he really saying?
He's saying he don't want to tell you how he really feels.
He's saying he can't say it because if he does, he feels like he's going to be a target.
Number two, guy answers, I don't know what I would have did.
That's the same answer.
That's the same answer as the first one, yeah.
That answer would be, well, I don't believe it.
I would have never done that. It wouldn't have been. Yeah.
I don't believe it. I think it's just an excuse.
Yeah, they would twist it around.
Or they say, I would have let him get killed.
Your old man? Who's going to say that? You're a cold ass.
That's what I'm saying.
Cold heart.
Right. So I look at it and I say, what would you do? So it's easy to say, oh, there's no excuse. He's using it as an excuse, this, that. You know what?
Nobody's
I'll say this till I die.
You'd have to be in that situation to really make that.
Had I wanted to flip, okay, if my mind was on flipping, I had 100 opportunities to flip. Why would I go to the extent of getting arrested, staying in jail for 2 years, pre-trial? Does that sound like a guy to you that's his intent is to?
No, that wasn't your first thought ever.
You could have flipped 2 years ago and been out after 60 days.
Right.
No, that wasn't your intent.
Right, but at the end of the day,
they gave you a reason. They really did. I mean,
No, I think they forced his hand. I wouldn't say they gave him a reason. Because, you could give me 1,000 reasons to do something. Unless you push me to the point where I have no choice.
I don't know.
Right? So
telling me you're going to whack my father?
Exactly.
That's enough.
You're going to come out
for me
and
to
put
make
a hit out on my father? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. If I'm in jail, I can't do anything to you to stop you. What are you going to do in jail? You ain't going out there and going, hey, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to hit you with a bat. I'm going to do what I got to do to stop you from killing my father.
I'm going to shoot you in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know something? You know what they make me laugh? They go, like the guy we're on the phone with yesterday. Frank, you know how it is. 70 people, supposedly I put away 70 people. Show me where they're getting these numbers from. Who came up with that? I don't know where they get these figures from. 70.
It said you are the most important witness for the government in the history of organized crime.
Yes.
Along with James Comey, too.
So, yes, James Comey. You made that guy.
Hang on.
Congratulations, bro.
I mean, what does that actually mean? What does it mean that you were like the most important government witness?
I get that. How did that statement even come to the public?
Okay.
How did something like that happen?
So then am I responsible for Trump getting reelected in 2016?
Probably, yeah.
Because of James Comey?
Yeah, because of Comey.
Let's really go.
Yeah.
Let's really stretch this out.
Stretch the crap.
Let's really
out
stretch
of
this. Somebody stretched it to 70 guys. I don't know who that is.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's only really 80 guys. At the time I flipped, I think there was 80 made guys in the Lucchese family.
And
that means only 10 guys will be left.
10 guys, and you're one of them. And so there's only 9 other guys.
9 other guys.
I'm surprised. Maybe next month it'll be 90 guys. There wasn't 90 guys, but
700 guys. Yeah.
But I'm almost going like, who do we contact to find out who these 70 people are?
Who came up with this? When he asked me about James Comey,
Yeah, I know. I heard.
You see
that.
my face?
Yeah. Well,
my face was there.
So what do I say?
Like,
Thank
okay,
you. You said. What do I say now?
Cameras in
Thank
my
you?
face 24/7. But what I'm saying is, he's asked me about James Comey. I'm like, what am I supposed to say to that? Thank you. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. What do I say to
How
that?
do you answer that question?
James, so then,
Like,
let's really stretch
you
this
gave
out.
James Comey his opportunity to become the FBI director.
Let's thicken this
Congratulations,
plot,
Frank.
okay?
Yeah, let's thicken it up.
That means
Let's
James
go.
Comey with the Hillary Clinton emails
Oh God,
and all that
here
stuff.
we go.
It's your fault.
No, but that's what got Trump reelected in 2016.
There you go. So you had to have something to do with that.
So I, Frank Gioia Jr., is responsible.
We're gonna have some fun with this. With
So
comments.
Trump owes me
Trump,
I should get
don't-
I should get invited to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. What? How come you didn't go to Mar-a-Lago?
Listen,
I'm thinking you may get to the White House. I'm thinking you may have to go visit with him
listen.
because he's reelected. I mean, you
Well,
know, you got
he's
to go
probably
see him.
watching the podcast right now because he knows how important he is.
Oh,
Yeah,
He
you're
was
watching me with
And he's like,
Yeah.
I got to watch this guy, Frank. 'cause he
3,000
helped.
subscribers. You're watching me. What I'm saying is,
Speaking of that, everybody, get on the button and subscribe, will you?
sub whatever.
It's,
What I'm saying is the James
subscribe.
Comey thing. I got no.
I
I
never-
never even. That
How
hit
did they
me.
come up with that?
Hit me like a what do you call it? Like a bat in the side of my head.
Yeah, you were like,
So
you were
where is James
disillusioned.
Comey right now?
I don't
Look
know.
at Mike's face. Mike's face
Probably
was like
hiding from
looking around, going,
somebody.
"He's not here."
I'm gonna go look it up.
He's not with us.
Mike's face was, his eyes were going,
Where is
"Well, he's
he?
not here. I don't know where he is."
I don't have him. Is he under the chair?
This is
It's crazy
the
stuff.
stuff that comes out.
It's amazing. Well, like you said it best. A lot of people are trying to make a name for themselves, whether a reporter or someone else coming up with this information.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Did you ever think? Were you shocked when he asked me that?
Yeah, I even shook my head for a second. I was like, where are they getting? Because at that point, I think it was the third or fourth thing he had said that didn't add up. And I know I don't know where he's getting his information. Obviously, the internet, but not everything we read off of that is accurate either.
What's James Comey?
He was the FBI director.
Okay, but what was his claim to fame?
But he's been
Well, I
erased
think
off
he
the
put-
internet.
But I think he's put a lot of people in
Like
prison.
literally after
You can't find
After the
him.
Vlad interview?
Nothing.
After the Vlad interview?
Maybe that's what
He's
did it.
like, did he
Comey
do
was
a
like,
Vlad
now I'm
interview?
associated with this mobster guy. How did that happen?